and
and
we
we
are
are
back
back
again
again
live
live
here
here
at the
at the
Pigskin.
Pigskin.
I'm
I'm
echoing,
echoing,
but
but
no
no
worries.
worries.
Give me
Give me
one
one
second.
second.
I shouldn't be echoing anymore, but like I said, thanks for joining us here live with the gang. Me, Schwank, and Hazalam Alaikum. Hazi, what up, brother? How you feeling today?
Feeling great. I'm feeling great. Off camera, we was just talking about the 2022 season for my Bengals, and we didn't win it all, but I was reminiscing a little bit, and there was a lot of packs in the air, so I'm feeling good.
Definitely a lot of packs in the air for sure. You enjoyed yourself this season. But we are now moving on officially to this 2022 season. This is our, I think, second off-season stream. So thanks for still kicking it with us, even though the season is not still around. But like we mentioned, we're not going nowhere. We'll still be live every week, talking about the news, keeping up with everything, and obviously definitely had to go live after this past weekend's NFL Combine. Just to recap that, talk about some prospects, also just go through some news because there has been some interesting stuff that's been dropped. So let's get straight into the docket. I think we should definitely save the combine just for a little bit last because that's probably what we'll talk about the most or have the most content to talk about. So I think we should just run through some of these topics. And obviously the first one that we're gonna get to today is breaking news. It was broken a little bit early this morning, not recently, but uh, Calvin Ridley, who had a weird sudden middle season retirement last year. He had put out a note talking about just his mental health and how he wasn't really in the best mind state to be playing football, so he decided to retire early. And we weren't sure if that was going to be like a forever thing or if he just needed a break. And I thought that was completely fine and a mature thing to do. We saw Andrew Luck do something similar in his career when a great quarterback who left the game behind early just to kind of preserve his mental and things of that. So I thought maybe Calvin Ridley would be following in those footsteps. But today there was an absolute bomb that was dropped, um, where it was announced that Calvin Ridley will be suspended indefinitely for the entire 2022 season and potentially for the future, um, based off of some gambling that he was doing on the games. Now, if you don't know, it is illegal to, well, not illegal in the law, but for the NFL law, it's illegal to gamble on any games if you are a professional athlete contract to an NFL team. Um, and after some investigation, it was deemed that he did place this is like a three-way, a five-way, and an eight-way parlay where he did bet on the Falcons and a few other games. Um, so it was a little crazy, a little bit of a crazy story. You know, Twitter had to get involved, was getting jokes off all day. So I really just want to get your take on it and how you feel about this whole situation with Calvin Ridley and his gambling.
I mean, it's unfortunate that the guy got caught. Because let's be real, the NFL, Roger Goodell, they put out a statement about integrity when there's guys like Dan Snyder and Stephen Ross who have way worse
Hmm.
allegations, and that's just those two. That's not including other players with domestic violence uh, cases, etc., that were only given 6 months suspension. So I just feel like there's a lot of hypocrisy going on, and if the NFL wants to do anything right, like the right way, not for their sakes, they should maybe get like a private investigator or something like that to really look into the league, to oversee the league. But we know that's not going to happen, of course, because these owners and billionaires don't want people looking into, what they got going on. They don't want people to know who they are. So I don't know. It's unfortunate, like I said, that he got caught, but I do believe that something will change. I don't think that he'll be suspended the full year. I don't think his career is over.
Hmm.
I think that's we're saying this is huge. The NFL is gonna suspend him indefinitely for to just to emphasize that they really don't want players betting on themselves. They don't want it to be like because let's be real. We know Calvin Ridley's not the first and last person
And that was
that's
my point because I know for a fact that there are other. Well, I don't know for a fact, right? Because obviously I'm not tapped into the league, but I know that there are other players, and in specific, I know for a fact the owners are betting on these games and GMs and people like that. I mean, sports gambling has really taken off over the past couple years. It's kind of become mainstream, and a lot of people are into it. And I think that's totally fine and normal as long as you're responsible with it. But um, yeah, I just think it's always the first person to get caught, and I know Calvin really wasn't the first. I know there was a guy, I forget his name, chat, if y'all know his name. It's probably from like the 80s or the 90s where he got caught, and he could have been a Hall of Famer, but he got caught gambling and fixing games. and now obviously he's an outcast. But um, they always make the first. They try to set an example out of him. So I feel like Calvin really is gonna unfortunately get the brunt of this criticism and like that. Even though honestly he doesn't really deserve it. Because let's be real, right? It said he in a 5 day period in late November of 2021 when he was away from the football club is when he placed these bets, right? So it wasn't like he was actively in the game betting. Like it wasn't like he was affecting the game on the field. No, he was sitting at home on his couch. Now, sure, people could say he could still have some inside information. He might be tapped in with some players in the Falcons organization, yada yada yada. Sure, I get it. That's fine, right? But to act like he's some criminal is dumb because he's not. I mean, he's everybody bets on sports. He's no different. He put out a tweet. He only bet like $1,500, so it's not like this guy was trying to like launder millions of dollars and like he was just on
But
FanDuel. You feel me?
you Bird,
Put a parlay down. Like it really isn't the end of the world to me. Now, to the people that are saying, "Oh, well, they should just it's dumb. They should just let players bet." I disagree. I definitely think that if you're an NFL player in the games, you should not be allowed to place bets. Like that's definitely market manipulation and stuff like that, and I get that. But to sit here and act like to spend this guy for the whole season, like you mentioned, there's no way that could hold up. They have to they'll probably reinstate him after a couple of weeks because that's not a full season offense. The fact that it's a 5 day period in 2021. Like it wasn't months, it wasn't years that we know of. Obviously, he may have been doing this behind the scenes, but what he got caught for is what he should be penalized for. And if he was only betting within those 5 days, he should be penalized for 5 days, 5 games. You know what I mean?
for sure. I also would like to see a lot of other players and coaches step up in Calvin Ridley's defense. You
Hmm.
know, I mean, the Steelers go ahead and get Brian Flores. I could see him possibly bringing up, bringing the light back on Stephen Ross. You know, I just feel like a lot of these players don't get the same. Uh, they don't have the same leash as these coaches and owners, which is understandable from a business perspective, but it's obviously not just a business.
Definitely.
The play like it's not like the NBA where it's a player driven league, but it's becoming that the NFL is shifting. Like it's we see they don't have as much power as they did before.
Definitely
So
not.
like, definitely think he'll be reinstated earlier than a whole year because that's crazy. I mean, I don't even remember the last player to be suspended a full year besides Josh Gordon maybe. But
Yeah, and he had like multiple offenses.
talking about a substance
Yeah,
abuse, so that's completely different. I mean, a violation is a violation. I understand, but like I said, they can't pick and choose when they want to enforce their penalties.
definitely.
Just not want to go to franchises, you
And
know.
I think that's what it is. It's a power move. Like they pick and choose when they want to. And you're right. It has to be consistent. It has to be across the full league. If Calvin Ridley is gonna get investigated, investigate the whole damn league. Investigate the owners. Investigate, like you mentioned, like actually do something the right way for once, not just to push an agenda, not just to make a point. I mean, it's just, but that's been Roger Goodell's thing since who knows? I mean, Roger Goodell saw a video of Ray Rice beating his girlfriend in 4K HD and suspended him for 2 games. But Calvin Ridley bet some money and he's out the year. Like, where is the consistency? Where, like, it just there is none. There is none, and I think that's corny. Definitely corny. So, unlucky, like you mentioned, it sucks that he got caught. I mean, he knows better. I was watching the Pat McAfee show a little bit earlier, and Pat McAfee had mentioned that in most locker rooms there's signs all over the place. Don't bet, don't do this, don't gamble, because obviously it affects the integrity of the game. So it's not like I'm gonna sit here and act like this guy didn't know any better. He definitely knew better. But at the end of the day, a slap on the wrist is all that's needed. It's not that deep.
That's my whole thing. I think the year suspension is the biggest
Hmm.
problem. I just think that obviously, like you said, he was wrong. He knows he was wrong, which is why suspension is validated. But
Definitely,
1 year is crazy. I
it's
mean,
crazy, bro. That's actually insane. All right, we can move off this topic though. I don't want to ever harp too long on somebody's downfall, stuff like this. Like this isn't a great topic. I know the media likes to eat stuff up like that, but here at the Pigskin we move different. We're pro player, so we're never gonna sit here and continuously bash or, you know. So let's move on a little bit. Let's talk about some of these franchise tags that were announced today. The deadline is March 8th, tomorrow, I believe. So I guess we're going to get a flurry of these tomorrow as well. But the ones that we know of so far today, the Cincinnati Bengals, they use their franchise tag on Jesse Bates. The tag for safeties is $12.9 million. So that is what he'll be making this year. Haj, you are a Bengals fan. Jesse Bates is a huge part of that defense who I'll continue to say was one of the best defenses I've seen in a long time, many years. I think it was the catalyst of that defense, and I think he was the heart and soul. He was the head coach sitting back there in center field, really making the whole thing run, making sure that nothing got past him, and he was probably a top three safety in the league this year. And I think he wants to be paid that as such. Franchise tag probably not really what he wanted, but it seems like that is where the Cincinnati Bengals are going to go for this year at least. So how do you feel about that and just the future? And do you think he deserves that deal, that contract extension?
I think this obviously was the best move for the Bengals only because of the severity of the offensive line. I mean, they need as much money as they can to towards that offensive line in free agency. And I think Jesse Bates knows that as well. And they just went to the Super Bowl. So I know now it hurts a little bit that he wants to handle that extension at this exact moment, get paid, feel way better going into the future and not just next year. However, he knows what this team needs. And that's some veteran, nasty, savage offensive linemen. And that seems to be the priority right now, not just in the draft, but in free agency. So it's like I said, he deserves that contract, and God willing, they'll work an extension out, but he can't be prioritized before
He
Joe Burrow when it comes to business. I mean, that offensive line cost him the game.
definitely did.
A lot of people were saying there's a lot of talk about his regular season performance and him ranking 37 among all NFL safeties this year.
By who? I don't mean to interrupt you, but who? PFF? Like,
I
come
don't
on
know,
now.
but this was I will say this wasn't his best regular season. I mean, it by far there were a lot of plays he looked lost out there, and he even admitted that his contract was in his head a lot in the beginning of the season. But this postseason, he showed why
His
you got to pay
worth.
that guy,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
why they're captain, and I think that they'll get an extension done. But right now, like I said, that priority is that offensive line. Those trenches got to get
And I
built.
think
I mean.
I think that's totally fair. I think that's a great point to be honest that I didn't really think of. When I first saw this, I thought I was obviously I won't say upset, but like it was a little bit of a concern to me because I'm thinking like this is one of the best players on the Bengals. I've experienced as a Steelers fan franchise tagging situations with Le'Veon Bell, for example, but it really is position priority. Like when building an NFL team and building a football team at all levels, they always say build from inside out. You worry about the trenches first, you build the trenches, and then you work on out. So I do think, like you said, the Bengals trying to save as much money as possible to prioritize that offensive line is a smart strategy and something that'll probably work out in the end because Jesse Bates is still only 25 years old, right? So it's not like they can still. It's not like he's towards the end. He's in his 30s, and no, they can still work out a contract next year or the year after that. Like I still think there's hope for that situation for sure.
Bengals fans who wanted him to get paid today or within the past week or so, they should be grateful because no tag and not paying him means him testing that market, and he would be the highest paid safety in the NFL. That guy
For
would get
sure.
paid immediately. I mean, there's no doubt by anybody. So that's the safest move. They keep him for another year, and God willing, they go back to the Super Bowl. I mean, they can make another run. They can. It obviously starts with the division, but I just think that was the smartest play business wise. I do think that they should have paid him because if he just had a regular season last year where he said that his contract was in his head and messing him up, I mean, who's to say it's not going to happen again in the regular season next year? If anything, it'd be worse if he's saying that was his reasoning for being so offbeat. But we'll just hope for the best. I mean, he'll still get paid. Obviously, it won't be anything close to an extension.
And yeah, NFL.com has him as a top 10 free agent. So you're definitely right. Like if the Bengals would have let him test that free agency market and were playing games, he would have been snatched up immediately by the highest bidder and would be one of the highest paid safeties in the NFL for sure. I mean, deservingly so, in my opinion. I think Jesse Bates is an incredible player. I hate that we got to see him twice a year, but continuing along with some of these franchise tags that were announced today, David Njoku, tight end, Cleveland Browns, was also franchise tagged. That move guarantees $10.9 million for him in this 2022 season. But according to reports by Ian Rappaport, his agent has been in negotiation for a long-term deal, so that could just potentially be a placeholder until they work something out later on in the year or potentially next year. David Njoku, not really sure how I feel about him. I think the franchise tag probably was a good choice to place on him. I think he is a player that definitely, obviously has the tools you would want in a elite NFL tight end. He good size, good hands, can run majority of the route tree, decent speed, strong. But he just hasn't really lived up to the hype that he had coming out of the draft 5 years ago. And now maybe it was just a little bit more hype in my opinion because I follow the AFC North heavy, so a lot of Browns fans were hyping him up. Maybe he wasn't supposed to be this guy coming out of Miami, but he was a pretty good player at Miami, and I definitely expected a little bit more from him out of his career so far. But um, the Browns went ahead and decided just to add the franchise tag, so he'll be around there for at least one more year, as well as Baker Mayfield, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. But any thoughts on David Njoku in general and just the Browns tagging him?
I think the Browns bad franchise, so he's not going to reach his ceiling on that team unless you're just a natural freak of talent like Miles Garrett. That's just me slandering the Browns being a Bengals homer. But in all seriousness, I think that that's a good move for them. Same thing with Jesse Bates. I mean, he deserves to get paid. I'm not gonna lie. And Joku's a pretty big part of offense. When a lot of people go down, he catches the ball. I
Hmm.
mean, he's hasn't been the superstar tight end that he was cited to be out of Miami, but he's still he's solid. I mean, he could start on all 32 teams in my opinion. So I think that it was fair for them to tag him.
Definitely. And Kobe says he also been injured a lot, I think. Yeah, that's also a good point, but I think that's another reason why they decided to go ahead with the franchise tag instead of a long-term extension. I mean, do you want to give this? I see here Tom Pelissero reported on NFL Now that the Browns that they did have an offer on the table for Njoku for about $13 million per year. And do you really want to commit to that to a guy that's not going to be available 17 games a year? And
Did
obviously in the
that
NFL,
offer?
go ahead, go ahead.
Did he take that
No,
offer?
they got the tag. So I guess technically they have
Was
until
that?
July 15th to sign franchise tag players to a long-term deal. So they still got some
Sounds
time.
like a good deal to me.
I would think so too, but I just in my
That's a
opinion, if I was a Browns fan, do you really want to commit $13 million a year to somebody that's going to be injury prone? So I do think it was a smart idea just to tag him, take it a year by year basis, see how he does this year, a prove it deal, so to speak. Like, all right, this is year 6 now. Like, take that next step. You've had your time. You're familiar with the system. You got the quarterback. I mean, and we'll see. We'll see. I don't think that was a bad move by the Browns at all. So definitely something we'll monitor, though. I think there can be a deal that might get worked out by that July 15th deadline, but we'll see. And then one more franchise tag that I saw today was the Chiefs went ahead and added that tag to offensive tackle Orlando Brown, coming over from the Ravens last year in free agency, I believe. A big part of that Chiefs revitalized offensive line that ranked top in one of the tops in the league this year. Big part of that, the blind side blocker, if you will. Um, let's see, a offensive lineman franchise tag is worth 16.6 million for the year, so that's pretty good. But it was also reported that he actually hasn't decided on whether or not he wants to represent himself or hire an agent for the upcoming negotiation. So we'll see how it goes. They said he's slow playing it because what's most important to him right now is supporting Patrick Mahomes through his wedding and handling charity events. So it doesn't seem like it's a big priority for that guy right now. I mean, that's his money. I'm not going to sit here and pocket watch, but the Chiefs, they did give up several draft picks to go ahead and get that guy from the Ravens, including a first rounder from last year, I believe.
Well, I knew that they weren't gonna let him test the market. I mean, like you said, they gave up a lot to get him. So to let him walk after 1 year would just
Dumb.
be that's
Yeah.
exactly.
He earned his third straight Pro Bowl this year, so it's not like he's a bum either or underperformed. So I definitely can understand why the Chiefs went ahead and decided to take that approach with him. Another guy I think potentially could work out that new deal by that July 15th deadline. We'll definitely keep an eye on that and report that as soon as we hear. Let's move off these franchise tags, but we'll continue talking a little bit about the salary and just money. The NFL, they did set the salary cap today at $208.2 million per team. I think that is a $25 million increase, $25.7 million increase from last year's salary cap. So big, big news. Last year's salary cap was below normal because of COVID. So just the money was a little bit different because they weren't selling tickets and things of that nature. But uh, for a team like Pittsburgh in specific, my team is that's huge to get the salary cap raised by 25 million. It's going to be huge for a lot of teams. Saints, team that comes to mind. Um, let's see. Usually it has about, okay, yeah, so this is crazy. So until the pandemic, the NFL salary actually seen a steady annual increase by about 10 million per year. So to see it jump from 25 million this year, that's huge. That's the biggest increase we've seen in a while. And I think um, this is good for the sport. I mean, we see in sports like baseball where there's unlimited salary cap, um, in the NBA where I think there's like 500 million or 600 million dollars in salary cap. I think that has really led to exciting leagues, and maybe in the NBA has led to some super teams that not everybody has been fans of. But I think that'd be a very interesting dynamic in the NFL. You know, like it'd be very hard to build a super team considering there's 22 players on a team that, well, there's 53, but there's 22 that are on the field. So it'd be hard to pay 22 superstars, right? But I do think it would allow teams to just add more talent and teams like the Texans, who maybe suck but don't have the money, now can have extra money to acquire and just bring more balance to the NFL in general. I think it's a good move and pretty positive for the NFL. I don't know if you have any thoughts on just the increase. I know the Bengals need it.
Well, we had some of the highest cap before that was announced. I think we were like top five in cap
Mm,
space going into this new season. However, yeah, like you said, that's great news. I mean, I already got some dogs in mind that they could spend that on. We'll wait a couple more days to see where these guys end up. But
yep, I think
all season is huge, obviously. First of all, Tom Brady retired, so the torch is in the air. I mean, someone's gotta take over, not replace him, but who's it gonna be? So this offseason, I guess we could segue into Aaron Rodgers because what's it looking like for him? I mean, I'm thinking honestly that he stays in Green Bay just off the strength of what he's been saying recently to the media, expressing how he'd like Green Bay to tag Devontae Adams, and things like that really show that he's still working with them. And not to cut
now go
you
ahead,
off, I don't see him joining Denver.
Denver.
I feel like there's the most talks of him in Denver. I know you want him in Pittsburgh, but that I'm not even gonna think about. I don't even think that's not a reality in my world. But Green Bay's his best bet. He's running back, and Tay Adams is about to get the tag. So
I definitely agree. I definitely wouldn't hate having Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh, but my thing is, in order to get him in Pittsburgh, he's not a free agent. We're gonna have to give away assets. We're gonna have to give away hella draft picks, probably players, and I don't think a 39-year-old quarterback who hasn't been to the Super Bowl since 2011 is worth it. I mean, there's no denying Aaron Rodgers' talent, right? I mean, he's definitely back-to-back MVPs, right? I believe. One of the best mechanic,
yes,
one of the best mechanically
back to back, back to back to back.
three in a row. Oh, okay.
This year was three in a row.
I thought it was two in a row, but it could be three. I'm not 100% sure. You might be right about that, but regardless, like
Could be tripping, man.
he doesn't get it done when he needs to get it done. And now last year, um, when they decided to go for that field goal instead of keep Aaron Rodgers on the field against the Rams, that wasn't really his fault. But this year, to muster up a mere, what was it, 7 points, 10 points against the 49ers at home in the playoffs, that just wasn't very inspiring and doesn't really light a fire in my heart. And obviously, like I mentioned, Aaron Rodgers, there's a reason we all know his name. There's a reason why he's been the MVP multiple times. And if the Steelers were to acquire Aaron Rodgers, we'd definitely be a Super Bowl contender. But I don't think the Steelers are a quarterback away from making it to the Super Bowl. Um, But it is interesting that you mentioned the Broncos because Ian Rappaport did go ahead and report that the Broncos are emerging as a destination for quarterbacks. That they are going to make a play at a quarterback, whether that be Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, potentially drafting a quarterback. I think Denver as well, like you mentioned, not Denver, Commanders as well could be a definitely a nice landing spot for them. I think they're a very underrated team currently. Um, and if they got a quarterback, I think they're a team that is probably. I mean, I think they can add a little bit more talent on that offense around Aaron Rodgers. But if they were to get Aaron Rodgers, I think they would be instant favorites to win the NFC East, in my opinion. Um, I think Minnesota was also mentioned as a potential landing spot for Aaron Rodgers, but I don't see that happening.
Oh,
Same division.
no.
I don't think the Packers would ever trade Aaron Rodgers to the Vikings. That would not make much sense.
You imagine?
Yeah, that's like the Bengals trading
I
Joe
mean,
Burrow to
that'd be a
Pittsburgh
great fit. Let's be real. Let's be real. I think that the Vikings have. I think the Vikings are one of the most underrated
for
teams
sure.
in the. I mean, if you talk about a quarterback away, they're top three in the league for sure. And I think any team that's plays the Vikings will tell you for real that those guys. I mean, they can ball. I mean, they got every position. They got all pros across the board. And you give them a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who's also played in that division his whole career, it's just gonna be. It'd be that's an interesting take. Like the more I think about it, it makes sense, but it obviously that's it's forbidden
Yeah,
upon. It's like,
that would literally be the dumbest shit you could ever do as a Packers organization.
and I can't see them trading for him. Like
Yeah,
that just
definitely not. So that's my thing.
something would have something would have to go south for that to happen. Like
Yeah, I definitely think him staying in Green Bay is on the cards. I think that is what probably what will happen at the end of the year. At the end of the day, I should say. There have been reports that the Packers do have a massive deal lined up for him. So it's not like they don't want to keep him. It's really just where does Aaron Rodgers, what does he want to do? So, and it was also reported by Pro Football Focus, Mike Florio, that there are already some deals that are in line. Like Pittsburgh supposedly has a deal, the Commanders have a deal already lined up. It's just Aaron Rodgers has to make his choice. So definitely, definitely going to be keeping an eye on that for days to come. But you're right. I think if the Packers can retain Devontae Adams, there's no reason why Aaron Rodgers shouldn't want to stay in Green Bay. I mean, it just makes the most sense in my opinion. But him in Denver, that'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. We were talking about it in our group chat a little bit earlier this week. Denver is a pretty solid team. I mean, they got two really good running backs, a deep ass wide receiving corps, Noah Fan at tight end. I'm not really too sure about their O line, and a really good defense. So I think that if he were to make it somehow to Denver, that would be a great fit for him. Probably the best fit outside of Green Bay, in my opinion. Um, Continue along some free agent talk though. A little bit of a tease going on today. Von Miller with some cryptic Instagram post, some hints, um, maybe potentially returning to Denver himself. And it, Von Miller himself reiterated a few times that he never wanted to leave Denver in the first place. Like that wasn't his decision. Um, it was just Denver felt like they could get good stuff for him, and they did. I think they wound up getting a first round pick and some other stuff. But he did tweet today. I kind of want that old thing back, 5280, referencing the Mile High City. Um, he posted an Instagram story where he said, "Should I wear 58 or 40? Or I wonder if they'll give me my old locker back." So a potential reunion on the line. That would just only make Denver more dangerous. And if they were to add people like a person like Aaron Rodgers and get Von Miller back, that could be a scary AFC contender. I mean, they play in a tough division along.
I just am not. I'm just not
No,
sold on Denver's receiving core. I'm not.
I understand.
Seeing them late in the year, seeing where they were at, and I just think it's super underwhelming. I really do.
I think they don't have a superstar. They don't have a bona fide star, right? But I think they have three really good wide receivers. I mean, Jerry Judy, um, Cortland Sutton, and Patrick
Tim
Tim Patrick.
Patrick is their best receiver, and that's their
He's
tight
their most
end.
productive receiver, but
No, he's their best
I
receiver,
don't think he's
bro.
their best. I would take. I'll definitely take Cortland Sutton and Jerry Judy both over him. I think
I mean, paid that guy. They paid
they
Tim. They
did.
know
They
Tim.
they did. He's a beast. He's like I said.
I
He's their
mean,
most productive receiver. Whenever there was a highlight,
say
it was him. Definitely.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is he's not that guy's not going to drop the ball. That was the problem with Sutton and Judy in prime time and in crunch time, and that's not good. That's not a good look. And I do think that, like you said, they don't have a superstar. They both have different kinds of skill sets. And Cortland Sutton could be a number one. I mean, coming out of college, that
Same
guy
with Jerry Judy,
was
right?
yeah. I mean, yeah, same thing. Yeah, I mean more Jerry Judy. I don't know if he could win like jump balls. I think he'll probably be deep more than he can
Okay.
really get big and bully you. But he's not that kind of receiver, so that's why they have guys like Tim Patrick and Sutton. But I don't know, bro. I just think that if Aaron Rodgers is gonna go somewhere, it has to obviously be an upgrade from Green Bay and receiver talent. This is what the draft is for. This is what cap space is for. So the Broncos have opportunities to add to that receiving room as well. So you never know. They could get a guy like Christian Kirk just to I don't know. They could do anything
I
for him.
want Christian Kirk in Pittsburgh once we get rid of Juju. That would be nice. I would like that.
I'm not gonna lie, that's tough. That's tough. But still no quarterback.
Hey, that might change after this past weekend. We saw some pretty good quarterback play from one specific quarterback that we'll definitely talk about. But we got some other stuff to get through first before we get there. Let's talk a little bit about the Dallas Cowboys. It was reported that they are most likely looking to move on from Amari Cooper as well as Demarcus Lawrence, two um, mainstays in that organization over the past couple years. Two really pretty good players. I mean, Amari Cooper, you can argue that CeeDee Lamb did kind of overtake him as that number one receiver. I think CeeDee Lamb is definitely a special talent for sure. And they got guys like Michael Gallup, who I also think is very underrated um, as well. Um, but yeah, I really like Michael Gallup personally. But he is coming off of that torn ACL, so they're gonna have to see um, what he's gonna do. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, Michael Gallup is super underrated as well. I think that whole Cowboys receiving core was top three, undisputed. I mean, they were loaded. You seen guys step up and score 4 touchdowns when starters went down.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael Gallup's definitely underrated, and this offseason is going to be great. If you're tuned in now, stick with us because this is going to get crazy. It got crazy last year, but this year is going to get even more
Definitely.
crazy.
And the reports were out of that obviously they plan on extending Zeke, and that's what I want to get your thoughts on. They want to pay Zeke, right? And they asked DeMarcus Lawrence to take a pay cut, and he refused. So that's one of the main reasons they are going to go ahead and move on from him. And then Amari Cooper, I mentioned I think they believe CeeDee Lamb is that number one. So do you think that choosing Zeke over Coop and D-Law is the play? Because I personally don't, especially when a guy like Tony Pollard has been playing really well over the past couple years.
Terrible. That right there is obviously Jerry Jones in full control, full operations. That's his play from the get go. Demarcus Lawrence is the best player on the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, that's my opinion. I feel like it's a fact if you know football. People, you can say Amari Cooper maybe, but he's not going to change the game like Demarcus Lawrence. And Dak, I'll take Demarcus Lawrence over Dak Prescott.
For sure.
But I just think that prioritizing Zeke and extending this guy and paying this guy like he's not profitable. I mean, they definitely should. I think it's time to move on from Zeke. And like you said, Pollard did his thing. Every single rep he got, similar to I can't remember his name right now.
Ooh.
I can't remember his name. Who was backing up Derrick Henry?
Oh, um, oh boy from Texas, Foreman,
Foreman.
Deontay Foreman.
When these guys get their chance and they spaz and they shine every single time and they just don't get an opportunity is a prime example of bad coaching. I mean, and ownership. Because it's like you're wasting reps. You're wasting reps. You're wasting reps. And Zeke isn't the same guy we saw in 2015. This isn't the same. I think that, like I said, he's still profitable. Maybe Dallas could have traded him, or I don't know. They could have done a lot of things, but extending him over Demarcus Lawrence and Amari Cooper,
That's crazy to me.
that order is just crazy, especially from the Cowboys' perspective. I mean,
And the fact that they're just gonna straight up release them, like they're not trying to use them as trade bait. They're not gonna try to get any assets. They're just like buy, especially for Coop. Demarcus Lawrence, you asking for a pay cut, you don't want to take one. I mean, you got Micah Parsons now. Obviously, it's not the end of the world, but just to let them walk, ah, that always hurts me personally to watch a player get released rather than your team getting the asset for him. But I feel like that's what I guess they think is best. Um, Continuing along though, um, should the Bills trade for Christian McCaffrey?
Ooh, that's a great destination for Christian
I think so
McCaffrey.
too.
I think that any just putting him back in that system with a real like a consistent quarterback, putting him back in that RPO system with a consistent quarterback will really revive him. And I'm not saying the guy won't get injured, but I just feel like he'll really catch his groove again for a full season. But I'm also not convinced that he could save the Bills. I'm not convinced that any running back saves the team. You know my perspective on running backs. I mean, I just told you what it was with Zeke, but I think that's a great spot for McCaffrey because he's more than a running back, similar to
Yeah,
Kamara. However, I think that the Bills, Josh Allen is gonna that defense should be
what they work on.
what. Yeah, I mean, I know they were great all regular season. They folded against the Chiefs, but if they're gonna pay a guy like McCaffrey, I would honestly go. I would try and get a pass rusher or
Yeah.
something from the Bills.
I think that's a good point. It is just about what the priority is right now, and I think Devin Singletary and Zach Moss they're not bad running backs. They're not CMC obviously, right? But they stay healthy, especially Devin Singletary. I know um, Zach Moss did struggle with some injuries this past year, but Motor Singletary, he's definitely, I think he's reliable and can fill that CMC role. But I think that would be a very, very interesting destination if that trade did go ahead and take place. Now, real quick, I do just want to rewind 1 second. I did forget about this, but it was reported that the Patriots and the Dolphins will be two teams that are interested in Amari Cooper once he is released. What do you think is the better fit for him?
He's from Miami,
Oh, is
so
he?
I would.
Okay.
Yeah, the Dolphins. Uh,
And if he's a free agent, he'll have his choice. It's not like he
but
won't
I
have to.
think that the way New England system is and the way Belichick and Mac Jones operate, Amari Cooper would benefit way
Amari
more.
Cooper feels like a Patriot to me.
100%. I think that that'd be a perfect fit for him. I mean, the way he balls, his whole essence and his play style and his character is perfect for New England. I mean, he doesn't talk. He doesn't, well, he talks, but he's not loud. I mean, the guy is like you said, he's a Patriot for sure. But he is from Miami, and I would think that Miami would probably pay him more in addition to being in Florida over New England. So that's a hard split for a guy looking at it from the outside. I don't know. I think the Patriots are a better fit for sure. I think that them having a short receiver like him for Mac Jones would just be having him like a safety blanket would be fire.
Definitely.
I think they might need more of a quick
Hmm.
guy from Jones though to be that safety blanket because Amari Cooper,
Possession kind of wide receiver,
for sure, they're not gonna be able to. He's not.
stretching the field.
Yeah, you can't just get Amari Cooper in space and have him take it to the crib. It's not. This guy's not Jamal.
I agree. And I also see here that the Panthers they want a first round pick plus another piece in return for CMC if they were to go ahead and make that trade. So um, what we'll do now is we're gonna take a quick 2 minute break. We'll come back. We'll finish talking about the news and then get into this combine and then wrap it up. So stick with us. Literally, we'll be gone for a minute, just to give us a chance to use the bathroom, grab another water bottle, things like that, and then we'll be right back. So thanks for sticking with us. See y'all in a minute. And thanks for sticking with us through our little halftime intermission. We really appreciate it. Let's get back into some of these news, and then we'll get to this to the combine because obviously that's the biggest thing. But a few more things, a few more people I want to talk about. It's free agent season. It's packed. There's a lot of things that's going on, a lot of speculation. It's lion season. It's the best time of the year where you get to. It's a new year. Everybody's 0-0. Everybody's trying to get better. So a lot going on. That's why we're saying stick with us throughout this whole off season as we'll be here to talk about it all. Um, so what I wanted to bring up next is this guy behind me, actually, Juju Smith-Schuster. Um, it seems as though the Eagles have interest in him and bringing him in, and I don't think that's a bad fit. I definitely think the Eagles need help at wide receiver. I know a lot of the Eagles fans have been thinking about Traylon Burks and some of these other wide receivers, considering they have three first-round draft picks this year, two first-round draft picks this year. So they definitely could go ahead and take a wide receiver in the first round. But bringing in a guy like Juju, I think could be definitely beneficial for him. For them. I don't think he'll be that expensive, um, as he hasn't really been to the level he was his rookie and sophomore season. But I still think that he's a really really good wide receiver, and he brings some off the field stuff, obviously the TikTok stuff, and just. I think he's honestly a good guy to have in the locker room. He has great hands. He does not drop the ball. He could play on the outside. He could play on the inside. And I'm going to be honest, when Juju was healthy with Pittsburgh, he was still probably our best receiver, even over Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. I think Juju is a really, really talented kid, and I think that fit in Philly with Jalen Hurts and that offense would do wonders for him. Any thoughts on Juju in Philly or any other spots you would think Juju would be pretty good in? I thought maybe Miami as well could be a good spot for Juju. San Fran.
Yeah, I like Philly. I think Philly's a good spot for him for sure. Um, the guy just has to stay healthy
Yeah.
wherever he goes, and he'll, like you said, be the number one receiver.
Definitely. I think that'll be a pretty good duo to have with Smitty and Juju. Another team that was reported that they were going to make a splash with the wide receivers, the Commanders and the Commies. They've been all over the news. They've been trying to. I heard they call like 31, all 31 other teams inquiring about. They call it the Chiefs about Patrick Mahomes. So I feel like one of these big name free agents could definitely be making their way to Washington pretty soon.
I mean, of course, if they did what you just said, and those are facts. Those aren't, I don't think,
No.
rumors. That that is confirmed, and the commies, the Commanders, did call all 31 teams inquiring about their quarterback. So they're all in. They're all in, and like you say, if we don't see a big name go to Washington in free agency, you know who they're getting in the draft.
Yeah.
Malik Willis.
I hope not. He got to be in the black and gold. And we're definitely gonna talk about some Malik Willis because he was looking amazing.
And their window, they know where their window is. I mean, they see the players they have now. They know their window is in 5 years if they want to,
There's
3 to 5 years if they want to get that ring. I mean,
yeah.
they got their guys now because they don't have to pay or let anybody leave who's doing crazy damage there now, whether it be any of the receivers, pass rushers. I
Hmm.
mean, they have Pro Bowlers across the board. So
Definitely. And I mean, they said that they were also the Commanders and the Panthers were interested in trading for Deshaun Watson as well. So if they were to bring Juju and Deshaun Watson to Washington, on top of what they have now, like you mentioned, Pro Bowlers across the board, yeah,
on paper, they would be the best team in the
yeah,
NFL.
that'd be scary. That would be scary. That would be scary. I'm not gonna lie. Um,
I think they might need they might need some help in the on the ground. Maybe they might need some depth at running
mhm,
back, but on paper, they'd obviously be one of the best teams in the NFL.
definitely. And then last name I want to bring up, free agent wise, before we kind of change gears here. Tyrann Mathieu. It is reported that he will indeed be testing free agency. He's not going to sign a franchise tag. He's not going to sign an extension with the Chiefs right away. So there is a chance that he will not be um, in Kansas City. Um, I haven't really seen any destination spots outside of one, and that being Baltimore. Any other destination spots you would think about for
New
New
Orleans.
Orleans? Okay, okay.
Yeah, and a lot of speculation about him going to New Orleans, and I think that's actually a better fit for him. I
Hmm.
think that he's getting older, is kind of the back end of his
Yep.
career for him, And a team like New Orleans, he'd have a lot of help. I think on the Chiefs, he might kind of be he'll continue to be kind of that captain. And at the speed he's playing at, I don't know if he can really be that guy
Hmm.
physically on defense. And health was somewhat of an issue for him a little
He went to
bit.
LSU
And
as well, right? He's familiar with that.
yeah, I think that that'd be a great like home type
Hmm.
retirement type.
I like
Oh,
that a lot, actually.
retire next year. But I think the players around him in that secondary, in addition to the draft, New Orleans has some. They got some hoopers.
For sure. And C1 Ubs says Washington needs some DBs too. Facts, but there's literally 12 DBs in the draft this year that they can go ahead and take in first, second, third round. I think they'll be okay with that. But yeah, I like that point. I don't think Tyrann Matthew is at the point in his career where you want him to be the best player on your defense. If he's the best player on your defense, that's probably not a good look. Not no slight at him. I still think he's talented. I still think he could definitely help a defense, but you don't want him to have to do it all. You don't want to have to be his attitude, his moxie, who he is. He's always going to be a captain. He's always going to be a leader in the locker room, right? But you don't want him having to like backpack and drag the defense like Baltimore potentially would have him doing. And I definitely think that's a way better fit in New Orleans. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. I didn't think about that. All right, but moving away from free agency, before we get to the combine, there were some reports from the combine actually. Once these coaches were being questioned, because all the coaches talked throughout the combine, and there were reports that Baker Mayfield, um, Kevin Stefanski did commit and say that Baker Mayfield will be the quarterback for next year. I don't think he committed to like a future or a contract extension, but it does look like they are planning on having Baker come back. So thoughts on Baker just returning to Cleveland? I think he is what he is at this point, right? I don't think Cleveland will find the success that they want with Baker Mayfield, but I think just with the market and just what the Browns need in general, I don't think they're really players to go ahead and grab a quarterback because they have a lower pick. I think they draft like 18. So I don't know if any of the quarterbacks will make it that far. And I don't think they have the capital to really trade for Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers. I think that'd be too much of a hamper to that organization. They need all the picks they can get.
For sure, for sure.
And then the Eagles also committed to Jalen Hurts and said that he will continue to be their QB1. There was some talks about potentially Deshaun Watson making it to Philly and them after also drafting a quarterback, but it does seem like Jalen Hurts will still be the quarterback of the future for the Eagles. I like Jalen Hurts, man. I still think he could be a top quarterback in this league. I think he has the brain. I think he has the athletic ability, the dual threat capability, a decent arm. He didn't look really good in that playoff game, but that was also his first playoff game, and that was Nick Sirianni's first playoff game as a head coach. And the fact that the Eagles were even in that position to be in the playoffs is just a testament to what they can be with Jalen Hurts. I mean, I think that they can win that division with Jalen Hurts.
I think Jalen Hurts is nice. I do believe that he has a long way to go when it comes to really dominating the quarterback position and being able to run the offense alone and, like I said, dominate. And I don't know if Nick Sirianni's that guy. He didn't do too bad, in my opinion. I think Philly overperformed this year. Although I said earlier in the year that they would win the East, but I'm not sure that Jalen Hurts will. I think that in maybe 2 years we'll see him make that stride. Just my opinion because of what I've
You
seen.
think the Eagles will give him 2 years?
Yeah, 100%. They have to. I mean, they're not going to upgrade from him within two
Hmm.
years. So I couldn't see them not doing that. And that's really my opinion on Jalen Hurts. I don't really have another take besides they need to get him some help because, like I said, he's far from just taking over like Lamar Jackson and just being that dominant. Get him a Juju Smith, get him a Christian Kirk, or just do what you got. Get him a McCaffrey. I mean, do what you got to do to,
Help him,
for real.
definitely, definitely. And like I said, they got some picks to work with.
Quarterback. He's a smart
Very
quarterback. I
smart.
think people underestimate how smart he is as a quarterback. And if you get him some weapons and you give him some time to really pick apart defense, and because his legs, this guy can score 70 yards,
Yeah,
touchdowns. Like
he's explosive.
if you don't, if teams can, play that balance on defense, then he'll for sure be a problem. But the Eagles got to do their part. I think a lot of these franchises and organizations rely on players too much.
Hmm. And not the team building aspect of it. That's a great point. It's like you bring him in there and you give this guy freaking a McDonald's worker at wide receiver. Oh boy, I don't even know his name. What's his name? The shitty boy that they Rieger.
Rigor.
He gonna be filling out
And
warehouse
they can't be
applications in a couple.
wrapped. I mean, what is Philly? A lot of these teams be whiffing, but Philly, come on now. I mean, this is a year, honestly, for them to. They can't whiff this year. You can't whiff this year at wide
Hmm.
receiver.
There's so many. There's so many, and I think that's a great, honestly, segue to get into this combine talk. Um, let's start off, and I'm just gonna go ahead and you as well if you want to mention anybody um, that stood out. But I think we should start off talking about some quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends since that was the first day. I guess we'll take it day by day. I also my notes here are written that way as well. So just some guys that really stood out to me specifically, just some winners and losers in my opinion. Um, Obviously, I think Chris Olave was a huge winner coming out of this combine. And now, before we get into this combine talk, let me preface this personally. And now, this might be a wild take, but I think for 85% of the players, the combine doesn't mean anything. Nothing to them, but in regards to how good or bad they're going to be, right? Because anybody can run fast, anybody can jump high and jump far, and anybody can be strong, right? But are you a football player, right? And you don't really get to learn much about that from a fan's perspective at the combine. But obviously, there still are some takeaways and some things you can learn. And I definitely think Chris Olave was the best looking wide receiver Thursday night in his group. Everything just looked so smooth and fluid. You could just tell that he was very comfortable with his body and the way that he manipulates it. And wherever the ball is thrown, he can easily adjust. And his ball tracking skills are elite. And then you got to see him sit there on that 40. It wasn't as fast as originally, but it was still a 4.39, which is sub 4.4. If you're running sub 4.4, that's elite speed. And I was definitely a big Garrett Wilson guy. I thought Garrett Wilson was the better receiver of the two. But after watching Chris Olave perform throughout the combine, I definitely think Chris Olave. I don't know if he's going to be better than Garrett Wilson, but I wasn't respecting him enough. He's elite. He's that guy. And I think he had like 17 touchdowns last year as well, which is absolutely crazy. Um, but yeah, Chris Olave definitely was a big winner for me. Any other wide receivers that stood out to you? You're muted.
For sure, a lot of wide receivers stood out to me. Of course, I had my favorites in Chris Olave, Pickens, Wilson. The obvious. London is valid
Mm-hmm.
too, but obvious top guys. However, in JMO, but his injury, he didn't.
Do anything?
I don't know. Did he do anything?
I think he was there for interviews, but I don't think he. No.
Okay, but yeah, receivers wise, I knew this receiver class was tough. I mean, anybody who watched college football knew that there's going to be a bunch of receivers, but my biggest takeaway from this combine was the edge, the pass rush. I think this could be the best class in NFL history when it comes to pass rushers.
I
And,
definitely agree.
and even on the interior, bro, like all across the line, I just think that there's some demons in this class. And if you've seen the combine and you look at the speeds these guys are running, now I heard your take on this doesn't have any effect on your career, and I agree
Mm,
100%. But you you got to crawl before you run, and this is where you get started. I
yeah.
mean, you got to whether you want to participate or not, and there are players who have the same philosophy as you. Example is Kayvon Thibodeau. I
Hmm.
mean, said that he didn't want to do a few of the things because he plays different positions, and he had his own
Hmm.
theory. But at the end of the day, you're not doing the drills. So there are players who think the same way, but the guys who do go out there and compete, they make a name for themselves and they climb people's boards. And this is a business and it's an old business. It's an old tradition. So this is what these owners like and want to see. And they're gonna draft guys off running fast 40s until there's no longer a
Hmm.
league. I mean, it's ridiculous, but
It's true.
you see you see a guy 6'7" run sub 4.7, you're gonna take him top
Yeah.
five, whether you need him or not. I mean,
EPA.
Jordan Davis may not be the best pass rusher, but he is the best run stopper and probably one of the best athletes we've seen in a long
He's a
time.
freak. He's a legitimate freak. I think I know for a fact. I don't think I know he needs to work on his stamina, and his just conditioning in general. But I think obviously once he's in that NFL system, once he's going through those workouts, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with, um, and hopefully get to that every down kind of player. Because right now I don't think you can use him every down. I think he's a more of like you said, he's a run stopper, so you might want to use him early down situations, maybe keep him off the field on third downs. But I definitely just with his athletic ability and just what he put on display this weekend, his ceiling, Aaron Donald.
For sure.
Continuing along, just some people that stood out to me. A guy that I had put in the chat, like I have no idea who this guy is. Christian Watson, coming coming out of North Dakota State, the FCS ranks. Um,
Play with Trey Lance.
played with Trey Lance, had a huge weekend. Really put his name up, and potentially think he was really projected to be like a third, fourth round guy. But now I could see him going second, late first
He's gonna
potentially.
reunite with his boy. I know that for a fact. If you're tuned in right now, lock that pick in. And
49ers.
if you could get on the MGM, yeah, man.
Make that
I
bet.
mean, that's the tradition. That's the new tradition in this league, and we seen it last year, and we seen its success. Nobody missed doing it. And if this guy slips to the second round, there's no way the 49ers do not take a receiver. I mean, you could argue they take one in the first round. They go and get him just because of their chemistry and their need. We know Debo Samuel's elite and a Swiss Army knife in the offense, but they need a number one receiver. You know,
Definitely.
that's what limited them this year, in my opinion.
And I think Christian Watson definitely could be that. I mean, just the size and the intangibles on top of, I mean, he ran a 4.36, had it says 11'4" broad jump, 38.5-inch vertical. I mean, 38.5-inch vertical is like jumping out the gym, like NBA
True.
Jam. You still with me? We here. Type stuff. Like I definitely seeing him play with his old quarterback in Trey Lance. That'll be very exciting, and I think that would add a whole new dimension to that offense. And like I said, I could see him second round. And we're back. Sorry about that, guys. Just had a quick little crash, but we're still here. But yeah, Christian Watson, man. I just think where the 49ers pick to, I think they pick 28 or 29. That would be a perfect slot late in the first round. Snag him up, first round type talent guy for sure. Um,
You look at Tua to Waddle,
mhm.
Hurts to Smitty, Joey Beasley to Lajay. I mean, the list goes on. That's just a couple to name from last year's draft. But you get these guys reunited, and a guy like Shanahan, you think he's gonna? Come on, man.
That that'd be
Come,
elite. That'd
come
be
on.
elite.
But Trey Lance did only have to beat out Jimmy G. So there are some questions. There are some things we don't know that they know over there in the bag. Because I believe that if he was good enough to play, or he's as good as we think he is, then he should have beat out Jimmy G last year.
For sure. And I think he will. I mean, Jimmy G will not be a 49er. He's going to be traded or released or something like that. Trey Lance, I think this is going to be his year for sure. So I'm definitely on board with that take. Speaking of quarterbacks, though, um, obviously one quarterback stole the show. There was a lot of talk about Kenny Pickett coming into this draft, and I still think Kenny Pickett might be the first quarterback taken. I know the Broncos are absolutely in love with him. I know um, the Vikings like him a lot as well. I think there was one more team that they were saying liked him a lot. I just can't think of them off the top of my head, but to me, Malik Willis was that guy this weekend. Out of Liberty. So didn't really play against the best competition, but just just the way that the ball comes out of his hand. I mean, when you just watch him throw, it just looks easy. It doesn't look like he's putting any effort into it. It just looks like he's back there in his backyard playing catch, and the ball absolutely flies off of this guy's hands, man. It's like his deep ball is one of the prettiest deep balls I've seen in some time. Like it reminded me really a lot of Russell Wilson and just the way the ball arcs and floats and flies. I mean, it was great. And he was a little bit inconsistent on some of those intermediate routes. He kind of overthrew them. He was kind of putting a little bit too much fire on it. But I think once he learns that touch, I think that's a very underrated thing that a lot of quarterbacks, as a quarterback, you want to be strong. You want to be able to make the throws outside the hashes, right? You want to be able to make those deep throws. But a quarterback like Joe Burrow, for example, is a master of touch. A guy like Drew Brees, I mean, they're just they're just gonna be able to make the ball easily catchable. And I think that's very underrated. And I think Malik Willis has to definitely work on that. But once he can throw those catchable passes, he, I think, has a lot of potential. I wasn't the biggest Malik Willis guy. Night gang. Thanks for tapping in, fam. But I wasn't the biggest Malik Willis guy coming into this draft. I want the Steelers to go maybe O line or linebacker, corner, something like that. But after watching him perform this weekend, I'm definitely on that Malik Willis hype train. I would love if he could fall to 20. Unfortunately, I don't think he will. I think if the Steelers do want to make that move, they're gonna have to trade up. But I just watching him play, he's going to be a very good quarterback. And he didn't run on the 40, but I mean, there's so much tape of what he could do with his legs already out there. He didn't need to. I mean, he's that's probably his best quality, just his electric ability. We see it on display at Liberty during the Senior Bowl. That guy can move as well. A true dual threat. I think whatever team does land Malik Willis is going to be very happy, and we'll have the quarterback of the future for the next 10 to 15 years as long as he stays healthy.
I agree. I think Malik Willis had a great combine and his stock 100% went up. If you look at all the other quarterbacks, nobody really did as well as he did across the board, for sure.
How
Aside from Ritter, he balled. I'm not gonna lie.
he
Ritter,
tested well. I would say Ritter and Carson Strong threw pretty
but
well as well.
we know about Ritter. Like you
Hmm.
said, Wilson's coming out of Liberty, and he wasn't projected first round last year. So
No, I think he's the best quarterback in this class for sure. And the more I watch, like I was really down this quarterback class, but I think some of these guys are going to turn out to be decent pros. I mean, I don't want Kenny Pickett personally, but I don't think he'll be terrible, right? Just he
But
doesn't.
bro, but the thing is that he may not be like the most physically gifted, but I feel like he's a true like he's a baller, like
Mhm.
he's a football player and
A gamer
he's a good leader, a good captain, and that kind of guy at quarterback. That's kind of a similar
what
moxie
you
to
want.
Joe Burrow,
Yeah,
carries
that's a
a
great.
team, and I feel like a guy like Kenny Pickett, no, he may not be the most physically gifted, but on Pitt. Those players will tell you that at any given moment they know that he can win them the game. Like they always have a chance at winning with Kenny Pickett.
That's a great
So
point. That's a quality that you want in your quarterback. You
yeah,
know.
and I do. It would make sense for Pittsburgh to take him. He's not the
Mm-hmm.
most. No, he's not the best selection in this draft. I'm not going to say that,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think that some people were asleep in his.
Yeah,
Um,
I wouldn't be as mad as I would have been a few months ago. I wanted nothing to do with Kenny Pickett, but if the Steelers did go ahead and take him, I wouldn't hate that. I definitely my mind has definitely changed on this quarterback
guys are
class.
definitely going center, and
Yeah.
I'm ready after y'all go ahead and whiff this year in
Nah,
the
no way, no
round.
way, no way, no way, no way we will find center. If Linderbaum is there, that's a smash. That's a
Oh
out of the
yeah,
park.
for sure. But
Even
it's
Zion Johnson. I'll take him as well from Boston College. I think he had another great combine. Somebody else who stood out to me, Zion Johnson, absolute freak, tested off the charts throughout the weekend. I think he'll be a great pick wherever he goes as well. Trying to think about some other linemen. Oh boy, what's his name? I'll find it for you guys right now. Um, Ike Ekwonu, offensive tackle out of NC State. I mean, that guy, talk about freaks. Come on, man. I mean, Evan Neal, he didn't work out during the combine, and I kind of think that maybe dropped his stock a little bit. I think um, this guy, Ike Ikwanu, may be the first tackle taken off the board now. I think this guy is a top five pick. I think he has all the intangibles that you want. He's big, he's long, pause. He's fast, he's strong, he's smart. He seemed to interview well. A lot of teams seemed like they liked him. running a sub 5 second 40-yard dash. Charles Cross out of Mississippi State, another guy who I think tested really well and helped his stock up. Um, I think Charles Cross can go top 10, especially at a position like tackle. Tackle is a premium in this league. You need a tackle. And I think those are really two good tackles, including Evan Neal. I think this is going to turn out to be a very, very good tackle class, even though originally maybe not a lot of people expected it to be. Um, me trying to think about who else, other linemen that stood out to me. Um, I, I said I said Charles Cross. I said, okay, I guess I gave enough. What about running backs? Any running backs that you thought helped
I think
themselves?
Dalvin Cook did his thing,
Not
but
Dalvin, not Dalvin,
Isaiah
James.
Pacheco,
Yeah,
yes sir.
Rutgers' very own.
I think that he had a great draft. I think that Boat Melton as well had a great draft, and Rutgers is gonna produce some heat this year.
For
But
sure.
running back wise, that's a good question because
I thought
you
Brees Hall played well or ran well and did his stuff. K9 as well, Kenneth Walker. I thought he had a pretty good combine. I think this is a pretty deep running back class, and that second, third round, we're going to see a lot of those guys fly off the board for sure. Um, who do you think's the best DB after watching the combine? Who do you think's cornerback one? There's a
I
lot.
got I gotta go Sauce,
Hmm.
but I really do feel like Derek Stingley is still generate that generational corner we watched in college. Like this guy looks like he's a cheat code, like prime time. Like
Yeah,
if he can stay healthy, there's no way that Derek Stingley doesn't become one of the best corners of
best.
all time.
Yeah, I mean, there was a clip that surfaced on Twitter this past week of him and Jamar Chase going at it in practice from 2 years ago, and just the way that he was able to battle. And obviously, Jamar Chase then is not the same Jamar Chase now. But I mean, Jamar Chase has been. If you watch college football, Jamar Chase has been the best receiver in college football since he was playing. So in order of Derek Stingley to run step by step with him and to be coached by Corey Raymond, who is known for developing DBs, I think you're right. I think Derek Stingley is definitely gonna go ahead and have himself a great career if he can stay healthy. I want to give a shout out to my boy Kyrie Elemno. He had an amazing combine. He ran sub 4.4. Um, had jumped well. He was very fluid. He's tall. He was a lot taller than a lot of people. I think he was like 6'2.5", I think, or 6'1.5" when they measured him. I think he's going to be a very, very
I see a
good
lot
steal.
of mocks of him going to Cincinnati, and my questions I've obviously watched him play,
Hmm.
being a Georgia fanatic. However, I do have questions about him as a tackler, bro.
I don't. I think he's a willing tackle. I think he's strong. I think he definitely can tackle. I think the situation that he was put in these past couple years with Todd Grantham as his
On the
defensive
tackle, but like
coordinator.
first instinct, like I feel like he's not. I feel like his first instinct isn't to tackle, and I feel like that's kind of that Florida defense, though.
Hmm.
It's more about the turnovers and going for the ball, and we need those guys that play like they do in Chicago, where they play through the ball.
Hmm.
And
And I go ahead. I mean interrupt.
no, I was just gonna say, I know what he can do, like in space and as a zone cornerback. Like I know he can be lethal, elite. But that was just my biggest concern, especially going round one. I mean, I feel like,
I don't think he'll go around one.
well, we have the. I feel like at 31, it's kind of
Okay.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I see a lot of mocks of cornerback, just depending on BPA
Hmm.
at that position. And I just want to, if they're gonna go with their first pick and take Kyrie Elam, then I just gotta make sure that's the right pick because I'll be hot, traumatized. There's a lot of DBs
All
we
right.
don't looked up who have been elite in college and then led the NFL in DPI. So
Yeah, I think he's a he's a when it comes to work, he's a freak. I think so. I think that if there are concerns, I think if he does have weaknesses, he's the type of guy that's going to be in the lab every single day working on that, fixing that. Like he's not the type that's gonna he has a way he thinks and he's gonna stick to that no matter what. He's very coachable. He's humble and he works hard. So I think whatever team does land him is gonna be very very happy. And I think like I said, he's gonna be a steal. He's not getting a lot of talk. think he's like the 50th ranked prospect on like Todd McShay's big board. But I definitely think he's a lot higher than that 50. I mean, against going against Alabama twice, he's the only one that held his own. Like he didn't give up any touchdowns. I mean, he's been a day one starter since his freshman year. So he has big game experience. I think he's very mature. He's obviously I'm biased. He's a Florida Gator, but um, I think that's definitely an underrated prospect. Obviously, Stingley, Sauce Gardner, definitely the top two, right? But I think Kyrie Elemno definitely is going to have something to say about that for sure. Um, any other players? Any other people that stood out to you? We talked about Jordan Davis already, Sauce Gardner. Try and think.
Yeah, I want to talk about Jelani Woods. I want to talk about Jelani Woods. I think that guy, if he can hold, I think that if he can hold on to the football, I know that UVA fans were saying that he kind of struggled with drops, but he kind of had
Mhm.
a quarterback. His quarterback wasn't bad. Now I think a lot of people sleep on UVA's quarterback. He
Yeah,
wasn't.
UVA. He was I. Berkmeyer, I think his name was something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He's not bad,
no,
but
he's
I
not.
think that he had a couple drops, so people are saying he can't catch. Now I don't know how true that is. I'm not gonna sit here and confirm that, but from what I seen at the combine and what I did watch of him at UVA, that guy kind of looks like top 10 talent to me, similar to Kyle Pitts. I
Hmm.
mean, a target that big is a mismatch against any
Anybody.
defense.
Hmm.
And with that speed and that frame, can't really miss like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see this guy sneak in the first round for sure.
Jelani's saying the Elam brothers are busts. You mad as hell Matt Elam was a bust. Matt Elam was definitely a bum in the NFL. I'll give you that. But Kyer's, I'm telling you, he's different. Kyer's definitely different. Um, uh,
Well, I don't want him at 31.
mhm.
31,
I think he's top 15, but that's fine. Respect.
Nakobe
I'm
Dean,
biased.
slide.
My thing about N'Kobe Dean is I wanted the Steelers to get him for a long time, but he's just a little bit too small for me. He plays a little bit. He's like Devin Bush, so I don't want two Devin
He's like
Bushes.
Von Miller.
I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying personally, a fit for my team. He's not a good fit for my team.
I feel
But
you. I
some
mean,
Georgia players that I did want to mention. Go ahead.
UGA had a lot of bust at linebacker too. Now it's
Hmm.
go dogs till I die, but there's a lot. There's been a lot of guys we've seen thrive at UGA, and then when they get to the league,
UGA had a hell of a combine. I mean,
oh yeah,
Trayvon Walker,
yes,
Devontae Wyatt,
yes.
Quay Walker, all elite combines. I think Devontae
How
Wyatt.
about who is seen?
I don't want to talk about him.
Elite man, wait till we do this mock draft. Wait, if you're watching this, stay tuned because we're definitely gonna get a roundhouse with some more TPS affiliates, and we're gonna do a mock draft. Uh, First round for sure, but we're gonna make this thing as accurate as we can because we know some stuff for sure. And there's gonna be some guys that slide way earlier than you think they'd go. I mean, you already
Facts.
see. We talk about the tradition in the NFL. These 40 times are going to get these guys paid. I mean, they train months and months to run certain times to make millions of dollars.
No, definitely. I definitely agree with that. Um, one guy that didn't really do much for me was Devin Lloyd. I in every single mock draft I've done for the Steelers, I've had him in the first round. That's who I wanted. That's who I still might probably want is Devin Lloyd, but he ran a 4.66, and I feel like his main thing about was his sideline to sideline capability and being that kind of roamer kind of linebacker, and he ain't really impressed me that much this combine. I wasn't really that impressed by Devin Lloyd. I'm not sure if his stock's going to fall at all. I still think he's obviously a great talent. We saw what he did at Utah this past year, but we'll see about Devin Lloyd.
Lonnie's asking, number one African says, how you feel about Tyndall, bro, dumb fast. That's Channing
Chen,
Tyndall.
oh, that's a linebacker, right, from UGA.
Yeah, he's cool. I mean, they had a whole committee at Georgia, so a lot of these guys, unless it was N'Kobe Dean, split the field, and they were role players. So if Channing Tindall can play a similar role he played at Georgia, which was he was kind of like a speed rusher. I'm not gonna lie. He played linebacker too, but this guy could line up a lot of different places. If he can get that edge somewhere, go to a team and be able to pass rush and play linebacker, similar to how Dallas uses Michael Parsons, and I think that he'll be successful. But if they try and just make him a traditional middle or outside linebacker, I'm not really sold on that. I like him being like a more dynamic linebacker.
Hmm.
But it's all about the fit, because some of these players, I'm sure they'd have way better careers going to different teams. Because there are some franchises that can't develop. I won't name names. But
But we all know who you're talking about. There's multiple that fit that mold. Um, how you feel about Jermaine Johnson? Out of Georgia, out of FSU, had a great senior season last year with Florida State. And I thought he tested pretty well at the combine as well. He's a freak athlete. I think he's definitely another underrated pass rusher. I mean, we talked about it earlier, Haas. You mentioned that this has the potential to be a legendary, generational, all-time pass rushing class, and I think Jermaine Johnson has kind of um, been pushed to the wayside. But this weekend, he said, "I am the best pass rusher. I'm the best defender in this draft," and I felt like he meant it. You feel like he still has that potential, or you think that maybe
for sure,
yeah.
I mean, he's had that potential since high school. I mean, this guy's been a 5-star recruit, number one player. I mean, this guy's been a superstar since that level. So there's no doubt in my mind he could be the best, but he just has to. I don't know. I think that it's bigger. It's kind of bigger than his physical ability, in my opinion. I think mentally, when he can grasp that role of just being a full like leader as opposed to just monster,
Hmm.
because he can be the best, but what can he do for like his team more so than just
Be one dimensional. I know what you mean.
for sure.
Any other players or shoutouts before we
I
wrap
know,
up
but I
combine
don't
talk?
know. Anybody else from Florida you seen that you were impressed about? I didn't really get a chance to see any Gators. I'm not gonna lie. I
Hmm.
seen Elam. I seen I think it was a lineman.
Carter or Moon?
I think it was Carter. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
I like Zachary Carter. Another
Yes.
another end. I think he's a little bit more versatile. I don't think he's just an end. I think he could play inside
He's
or
strong.
outside on the D
He's
line.
strong.
He's
He's strong.
very strong. Yes, and I think he's going to be a really good player. I mean, Florida has put a lot of really good defensive linemen into the NFL throughout the years, and I think he's
I
definitely going
think
to be a good player.
anybody on any team, not to cut you off, has
Hmm.
had a good player from Florida on their defense, like a great player from Florida on their defense.
No, for sure. I think Zach Carter is definitely going to be a long time NFL player. He's going to have a long career for sure. Just his versatility, like I mentioned, just being able to play all throughout that defensive line, he'll definitely find a spot. I see him maybe third round potentially, but potentially second round. But I would say in that 2 to 4 range. I don't think he'll slide any farther than that. His testing wasn't off the charts. I mean, he wasn't like super fast. But that was going to be my next Damian Pierce. Damian Pierce. Um, I mean, the fact that Florida didn't use him, like Georgia used, Georgia used running back by committee too. He should have been the workhorse for Florida. If he would have been the workhorse for
Like
Florida,
Bigsby in Auburn.
yes. If he was the workhorse for Florida, Damian Pierce would be talked about as one of the top running backs in this draft. I mean,
100% because
this.
he had the production, which
Oh
is
my
great.
goodness.
He had the production. It's just about, like you said, spotlight and opportunities in those
Hmm.
big games because he wasn't given 30 carries or
Nah.
20 carries or
Hmm.
15 carries.
For a fact.
That guy needs 15 carries minimum. I mean, in college football, he can dominate the game, like you said, and he'd be talked about right now as the best running back in this.
Definitely up there with the top Brees Hall, K9, all those guys. I think he's definitely in that conversation. I mean, one the play that I feel like just kind of his career is just it was against FSU last game of the year. We're not playing for nothing, right? But yeah, Jelani, he was eating a little bit versus Georgia, and they stopped using him. We were doing that all year, bro.
Thank
We
God.
we wouldn't we wouldn't be able to run the ball. We gave the ball to him. He rips off 2 10-yard runs, and he's on the bench for Malik Davis. No disrespect to Malik Davis, but like, come on, dog. Like, come on, bro. But I mean, Damian Pierce, FSU, last game of the year. We're not playing for nothing. I mean, we're playing for ball eligibility, but at that point, who really cares? This guy gets his helmet ripped off on the 15-yard line and still runs for 10 yards, breaks 2 tackles, and dives into the end zone without a helmet on. There's a flag called because you're not supposed to keep playing without a helmet, but the fact he's just that kind of guy. Like he's just tenacious. He's just University of fucking man. But he's just tenacious. He runs hard. He's hard to tackle, and he's deceivingly elusive. A lot of people are going to view him as like a bully, a short yardage, but he's really, if he gets in open space, he got the and the heem on deck. He's a running back, and he's a running back. So I definitely think whatever team does wind up getting Dameon Pierce is
Kind of reminds me of
gonna
Michael
love
Carter
that.
on the
Yeah,
Jets.
yeah, that's a great comparison.
Their
That's a
comp
great comp.
for him. Because when you watch that boy live, and if you watch football and you see Michael Carter on the Jets as a rookie, and you watch him at UNC, then you know that guy is official.
For
Similar
sure.
to like DeAndre Swift kind of. I mean, not as quick,
Yeah,
but
definitely not
that
as quick.
ability to make the first man miss.
hmm That's what
Because
is that dead leg
I never see him. Never
first
see first
contact. Nope.
tackle.
Nope. And that is literally the best quality that any running back can have. If you can always make that first man miss, that's guaranteed 3 yards, 4 yards. And if you're
He's
getting
gonna
if
be still for sure.
for sure.
Where do you think he lands in this draft? What round? In top or bottom?
I'm gonna say bottom of the second, early third. I think really just Senior Bowl week was huge for him. People were really starting to notice like why wasn't this guy played more at Florida? And then he had a really solid combine, 21 reps on the on the bench press, a great personality, a guy that you would love to have in your locker room. So I think coaches are gonna like that. So I definitely can see him going second or third. I mean, there's a chance he might get taken late in that fourth round just because running back isn't really prioritized nowadays. But a team that's looking to add a solid running back too, somebody like, for example, the Steelers, somebody just behind Najee Harris that can take the load off of him and take some carries and develop into a solid running back. And I think Damian Pierce has that RB1 potential. I definitely do. Maybe not off off the bat, but maybe, right? I think like I mentioned, if he would have gotten the amount of carries that Kenneth Walker got this year, he would be looked at as one of the top running backs in this draft for sure. So I think whatever team lands on him is also going to be a definitely a steal. Carter, Pierce, and Elam. Those are definitely the three Florida players that I think will be really good players in the league for sure. Coming out of this draft at least. Um, Trying to think about anything else before we wrap up here.
Before we wrap up, we did speak earlier about Trey Lance reuniting with Christian Watkins,
hmm
receiver, NDSU, and we are forgetting that San Francisco traded that 29th pick to the Dolphins.
Ooh, they did.
Hold
They
that
did.
29th pick any longer. I forget every single time, but the Dolphins will be able to make a steal at 29 in this year's draft. So there's no uh, guarantee that they don't go Christian Watkins because they'll still have their second round pick.
hmm
But I still believe he goes there and reunites with Trey Lance.
that would be lovely. That would be lovely. I'm not gonna lie. Um, Real quick, I'm trying to just look at any other news that we got here on this docket before we wrap it up here. Um, some Richard Sherman news actually. Richard Sherman pleaded guilty to two misdemeanor charges. From this summer, there was a drunken driving and a domestic disturbance that happened and wound up in him getting arrested on July 14th. Um, he did plead guilty, so I do believe that he'll avoid any jail time. I think he was sentenced to like 88 days or something. So definitely something to keep a look at. I mean, Richard Sherman hasn't really been a huge factor in this league for the past couple years, but it always sucks seeing a legend like him to go out sad and to get involved in stuff like that. So hopefully everything gets turned around for him. Um, but yeah, I guess that could wrap it up for this episode. We've been live here now, hour and a half. Talked about a whole bunch of news. Went over the combine. Next week, March 14th, I believe, is the legal tampering period begins, where teams can start working out deals with free agents and can start talking to their agents legally. And then March 16th, free agency opens up. So it's going to be a big, big week for the NFL next week. And then I think the new league year starts next week as well. So going to be a lot more news to go over and talk about. Like Haas said, we're definitely begin some mock drafts going. As the draft approaches, we'll continue to talk about some of these prospects that we like and stuff. And college football spring practice also starts for most teams on the second or third week of March. So we're going to get back to talking about some college football here and just giving some previews of each conference and some teams that we think are going to do good or maybe do bad. So I'm definitely excited to get back into some college talk because it hasn't been that personally I like college football more than I like the NFL, but so I'm excited about that. Do you have any last thoughts or topics or anything you want to get off, Hazi?
Hey, nothing but go dogs. Joey Bisky will be back.
Yes, sir. Thanks again for everybody that tuned in tonight. If you're just getting here or if you only got here halfway, you can go ahead and check out the VOD. It is up here, still available on Twitch, so you can watch the whole stream. I'm also going to make sure that we get this up on YouTube. I was going to try to post last week as well, but we were having some difficulties with my mic, so I was unable to post that. But make sure you go follow us on our YouTube, the Pigskin Live. Follow all our social media. It's right above us here. Um, as we're active, and we are much more active now. We're going to continue to be more active throughout the whole year. So just thanks for y'all support. 2022 is going to be a great year. We have a lot of stuff planned, and we're working on a lot of stuff for this stream. So I'm personally really excited. I know Haas is too, and hopefully, like Haas said, we can get some more of our TPS affiliates back on the show. Get Jelani back on. Get Nick back on. We had Steph on last week. Get Eddie and Kobe to maybe hop back on for a couple episodes and lie, right? It's lying season. That's the best part. Everybody's 0-0, and everybody can go 17-0. Everybody can go
We are
13-0.
defending some belts up here, though. I mean, we're not gonna act like we don't got a couple belts in rotation because there definitely are some titles to be defended.
For
A
sure,
North
for sure.
2021 National Championship. I mean, week one's gonna be crazy. Like Swing said, we're gonna keep you guys updated weekly throughout all our socials. So make sure you follow us on Twitter at the Pigskin Live, Instagram the Pigskin Live, Instagram the Pigskin, and go on the website because there might be some heat on there.
Oh, there definitely will be some heat. There definitely will be. So make sure y'all check us out. Once again, thanks for rocking with us. Go Gators. Here we go. Um, Peace.